As the king of self-sabotage himself, in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about 3 primary causes of self-sabotage, specifically related to addiction. And then at the end of the video, I want to provide you guys with a path or a solution to stopping self-sabotage once and for all. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name's Dr. Frank. I struggled with self-sabotage predominantly in the form of vices to nicotine, THC, energy drinks, adult media content, and of course, the occasional binge drinking and overconsumption of alcohol. If you wind up enjoying the content in today's video, be sure to check out the video description or the pinned comment to learn more about our paid and free addiction recovery coaching programs and resources. Self-sabotage happens for 3 primary reasons, and it's not as complex as you may think, but just by understanding what self-sabotage is, what it looks like, and what we can do about it, it makes it much easier to overcome. The first reason for self-sabotage usually has to do with a series of crappy coping mechanisms that we developed early on in our lives that are no longer serving us. So coping could come in the form of consuming drugs, smoking a bunch of weed, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol. It could come in the form of gambling or watching pornography. It could come in the form of spending money that we don't have, overspending, over-consuming food, or even relentlessly getting in and out of toxic relationships. There's many different coping mechanisms out there that people use, and at one point in your life, they may have served you. If you've been around my channel long enough, you would know that I've said, yeah, there was a time when weed actually served me well. There was a time when I would even argue that nicotine actually served me well. Maybe I could even say alcohol and drinking on the weekends and getting that false sense of stress relief actually served me well. But as I got older and as my life changed, as my environment changed, as my responsibilities changed, these coping mechanisms that worked for me in, say, early adulthood, early college, earlier on in my career, early in my relationships, they began to fail. And the problem is I had spent so many years wiring these coping mechanisms into my central nervous system, into my DNA, they were very, very hard to break once they stopped working. And this is actually the second reason why people self-sabotage. So reason number 1, a series of crappy coping mechanisms that no longer serve you well. Reason number 2 is many of these coping mechanisms are hardwired into our central nervous system, and your nervous system prefers the known versus the unknown. So self-sabotage to an extent gives a layer of predictability when it comes to outcomes, despite the fact that those are not going to be pleasurable outcomes in most cases when it comes to addiction or substance use. So I knew the outcome of going home after work and smoking weed and watching pornography and staying up late. I can't say it was particularly a pleasurable outcome, but it was a known outcome. I didn't know the outcome of coming home, exercising, working on a side hustle, banking up some cash, feeling good the next morning when I wake up, having an abundance of energy. I didn't know what that felt like, and when I would get a taste of it, I didn't know what to do with it. And that was actually very uncomfortable for me. Again, smoking weed, overindulging in nicotine, hitting my vape, chewing tobacco, watching adult media content. Although it sounds like a downward spiral, and it was a constant downward spiral, it was very, very predictable. And your central nervous system is going to lean towards the thing that's most comfortable. And the thing that's most comfortable is going to be the thing in which we can predict the outcome. And in many cases, self-sabotage has a very predictable outcome. This is nothing more than a protective mechanism developed by your central nervous system because in comfort, in predictability, they go hand in hand. The third reason why people self-sabotage, especially in addiction, is because let's say you change over those coping mechanisms. Let's say you start to re-hardwire your central nervous system and you start becoming comfortable in the level of change and the level of discomfort in the unpredictability of life. Let's say you accomplish all that and you start to get a taste of success. You start to save some money, you start to lose some weight, you start to rack up some time and sobriety and recovery, even though time and sobriety and recovery is a false concept. That's a whole nother video. But let's say you get that success. Well, I know for myself and a lot of people that we coach and we work with, once they get there, they fall into this delusion that they don't deserve it. I don't deserve to have this money. I don't deserve to have this channel. I don't deserve to have this success in my relationship, in my career, in my physical fitness. And suddenly what they'll start to do is return to all of those behaviors that robbed them of all of this success that they've now obtained. They start to backpedal. And I've done this countless times. And it's under that pretense, that false idea, what I like to recognize as the addicted voice, that irrational part of my brain that makes no sense, that says, hey, you don't deserve to be here, so let's burn it all down. And trust me, I built it up and burned it down more times than I can tell you throughout the course of my life. And that's saying a lot for a guy that's only 35 years old. I did that for about 10 years. I'd build it up and I'd burn it down, build it up and burn it down. So now the question becomes, okay, how do we stop this cycle of self-sabotage now that we have an understanding of why it happens? Step number one is dropping the vices, put the vices down, and start to give yourself space to develop new coping mechanisms. And a lot of people, guys, we know what the healthy coping mechanisms are. We know exercise is healthy. We know that faith or prayer or meditation is a healthy coping mechanism. We know that talk therapy is a healthy coping mechanism. We know that finding strength in a community of people that support us is a healthy coping mechanism. We know that pursuit of healthy hobbies, healthy side hustles, even to an extent, pursuit of your career, something that's going to give a lot of people purpose in life, we know that these are healthy coping mechanisms. It's a matter of repetitively doing them over and over and over again. It's finding coping mechanisms that serve you now in your current environment, in your current life's circumstances, unlike all those vices that are no longer serving you: nicotine, weed, pornography, gambling, alcohol, whatever the vice, whatever the addiction is. It's stopping self-sabotage and addiction starts with putting those substances down to give yourself the opportunity to develop new, healthy coping mechanisms, okay? Now, once you find those coping mechanisms that you can stick with, coping mechanisms that you actually enjoy, that you see benefit from, it's time to repeat them over and over again, because this is how you're going to rewire your central nervous system. It's going to take time, though. I'm warning you, it's going to take time, because remember, your central nervous system is hardwired for your survival. And for a long time, your brain, your central nervous system has been tricked into thinking that the substances are a substantial aspect of your ability to survive, even though we know that that's infallibly, that's false, that's fake, that's a delusion crafted by addiction. That's addiction's way of hijacking your body. So now we start introducing these healthy coping mechanisms in, we repeat them over and over and over again, and eventually your central nervous system is going to start to rewire and pick up on that. And instead of reaching for the alcohol, reaching for smoking weed, reaching for the cigarette, you're going to start to reach for the weight. You're going to start to reach for that chicken and rice, or that, broccoli and cauliflower, whatever healthy food. You're going to start to reach for the phone in that talk therapy session or that coaching session. You're going to start to reach for going for a walk. You're going to start to reach for something better, a hobby, playing an instrument, filming YouTube videos. You're eventually going to rewire the way your central nervous system operates. And things that were once uncomfortable are going to be predictable, right? There's now predictability when I make a YouTube video in that. I know what the outcome is going to be. We're going to do coaching calls. We're going to get views. I'm going to be on the phone for the next week doing these coaching sessions. And I'm going to feel good about it. I'm going to feel good about helping people, driving an income for me and my family. It's predictable. Okay. Once we change over the coping mechanisms, once we drop the vices, once we hardwire them in, you're going to start to obtain a level of success. And for a lot of people, this success is uncomfortable because success comes with responsibility. In active addiction, my responsibility was getting lower and lower by the day. So I didn't actually have a lot to lose. As I started to become more and more successful in my physical health, in my mental health, in my career, in my family, in my relationships, I now have a lot to lose. I now have a lot to stand for. There's a lot more pressure on my shoulders, okay? And it's my responsibility, it's your responsibility when that addicted voice pops up, when that voice of self-sabotage pops up, to say, hey, I do deserve to be here. Look at my track record. Look at the work. Look at the effort. Look at the commitment. Look at the dedication that I've put into curating this new lifestyle. Look at the level of discipline that I've exercised over the last several years. For me, it's been going on 8-9 years now to be at where I am today. I'm fully deserving of it because I put in the work. One of my favorite quotes, the work instills the worth. This is very, very true. And that's how I avoid that idea of you don't deserve this or you shouldn't be here, or Frank, just go burn it all down tomorrow. Look at what I've done. I absolutely deserve this. This didn't happen by coincidence. This didn't happen by chance. And guess what? I'm going to keep doing all of those positive things that I've been doing now for the last 8-9 years of my life throughout this recovery process. Which, by the way, I'm recovered. I'm not in recovery anymore. That's a whole nother video topic, though. I'm going to keep doing those things that have benefited me. In fact, I'm going to do more of them, not less of them. And this all starts with self-talk, self-improvement. It all starts with that. It all starts with, hey, listen, that coping mechanism that's no longer good for me, I'm not going to reach for that. And then I'm going to tell my body, it's okay. It's going to be okay. I know you're scared. I know you're trying to protect me. I know that that's normal, but I'm not going to reach for that. I'm going to reach for something better, and we're going to figure it out. Guys, it's literally in how you speak to yourself. This is your life. This is your show. These are your decisions, not anyone else's but your own. So how you talk to yourself, how you invest in that development of yourself is going to matter, and it's going to dictate the degree in which you do or do not continue self-sabotage. And this is how we change. This is how we avoid self-sabotage and addiction going forward. And look, maybe at the end of today's video, what you ought to do is sit down and start to identify all the ways in which self-sabotage occurs. For me, it was centrally revolved around cannabis, weed consumption. I would smoke weed. I would scroll social media aimlessly. That would trigger me to then watch pornography. Then I would watch porn. I would do my thing with that. I would become tired. I'd stay up late. I'd feel like crap the next day. So then I'd eat crappy to try and feel better. Now I don't feel good. So I'd go spend some money on something to try and make up for feeling crappy. Now I spent money that I shouldn't have been spending. Now I have more financial stress. Now I'm stressed. So I'm going to go back to that method that's protecting me, that my central nervous system knows how to do to avoid stress, which is smoking more weed, right? A lot of times when we're self-sabotaging, we're reaching for crappy coping mechanisms in order to avoid some degree of an emotion because we never gave ourselves the space or the mental capacity to allow ourselves to work through those emotions. If I'm constantly consuming drugs, if I'm constantly self-sabotaging myself, I'm never going to be in a position mentally, physically, or spiritually to deal with the emotions that I'm trying to avoid through self-sabotage in the first place. Do you guys see this cycle of addiction? Do you see how these substances are manipulating you? Do you see how this is impacting potentially every aspect of your life from point A to point Z? It's really simple once you understand how it works. I'm sharing with you guys what worked for me, and I'm sharing with you guys the education that I received in hopes of it working for you. That's what I do as a coach. That's what I do when I work with people one-on-one when we're helping you come up with a plan. If that's something that you need help with, check out that pinned comment or check out the video description. Guys, also, I plug it in every video. We have launched our Kick It Crave Less Chewing Gum supplement, right, to help with some of those withdrawal symptoms. It has N-acetylcysteine to help with obsessive compulsive behaviors. It's a great supplement. Check that out too in the pinned comment of the video's description to learn more. Until next time, see you again soon.